You've made it to another Monster Monday, the best way to be starting your week. For this one, we're returning to Monster Hunter Wilds to find the apex of the Oil Well Basin. First encountered as the ominous Black Flame, please give a hand, or 8, to the torched and tentacular terror, the new Udra. Before we begin, we're now on Patreon. You can get builds and monsters 3 weeks early there, as well as unique items and extra content. Even a little bit helps us go a long way. Similar to the Ray Dao and Uthduna, the Udra is the apex monster of its region, which apparently you need to have 2 names to be qualified for. The first of its kind in Monster Hunter, as far as I'm aware, the Udra is a cephalopod. It has a skeleton entirely new to the games, and it makes great use of it as it slides and coils about the battlefield, smashes foes with its tentacles, and even squeezes itself through cracks in the wall and floor, fitting with the real-life abilities of octopi to squeeze themselves through any space that they could fit their beak through. One of the main features of the new Udra is that it covers itself in oil silt to enable its tactics, which I decided to just factor into a base aspect of my design on it. Speaking of, I decided to use a level of 13 for the new Udra. The folks on the Discord suggested to build it at this or level 12, and I just personally have a soft spot for the number 13. Traits-wise, we actually resemble the giant octopus a bit with the animal trait, but our new Udra has the fire trait rather than aquatic. Maybe it's just due to the environment, maybe it's due to its weakness, but I don't even know if the new Udra has any abilities to operate in the water. Looming from the lava, our large land octopus lends itself to a high strength bonus, inspired by the fact that it tends to slam its tentacles down rather than attempting snaking strikes. Nevertheless, I did still end up using a moderate dexterity, inspired by some of its more octopus-like motions, and then I have both of its constitution and wisdom at low. I did honestly debate whether I wanted to give it a higher intelligence inspired by the unique cleverness of real-life octopi, but I ultimately settled for this lower value. I did follow its low wisdom with a low perception score, but the new Udra is uniquely lacking in vision. So it doesn't have dark vision or anything like that, but instead has motion sense, much like oozes and other similar creatures. Wrapping this up with its skills, the new Udra uses a high athletics, since it does honestly seem to have a habit of grappling its victims, while its slithery nature makes me think of a moderate acrobatics for it as well. As for its defenses, I decided to have its rubbery hide and oil slit covering granted a high armor class. One of the other reasons that I went for this high AC is that I actually didn't design the new Udra with any components. The only really noticeably breakable part on it are its tentacles, but it has 6 of those that it regularly fights with. So, rather than needing a component that needs to be broken 6 times, or having an effect that happens after just breaking it once, which didn't really sit well with me, I decided to just forego this aspect. Along with that high AC, I decided on an HP that was more along the lines of low, which is further influenced by an immunity to fire damage, and visual effects as well. I do have its HP leaning a little bit towards moderate due to the fact that it does also have a weakness to water though. Now with all those concepts taken into account, the new Udra uses a high reflex save, a moderate fortitude save, and then a low will save. It's a pretty standard lineup that I've used before, though that reflex being the high one is a little different from most of the Monhunt creatures in my memory. That just leaves our numbers with the Octo Oddities offenses, of which we have 2, somewhat ironically in a similar vein to the Ajarakan. Its melee strike is its tentacle, which has a high attack bonus but comes with the agile and versatile trait, along with a considerable reach, which honestly mostly follows the design of the giant octopus, except for that versatile piercing, which is instead inspired by the bone spikes and spur along the new Udra's tentacles. I settled on moderate damage for now, because there is actually something a little bit extra to the new Udra's kit. But before we can talk about that, I do want to say I actually use the same damage value for its ranged rock throw as well. The ranged nature of the rock and its brutal trait did lead to me using a more moderate attack bonus. With the new Udra's ability to climb and crawl along walls and potentially just throw rocks from afar at people, I wanted to make its melee equally, if not more so, enticing between the 2 of them, which is also one of the reasons behind the improved grab on its tentacles. Getting into its abilities, our terrific tentacular terror does have the rather basic compression effect, which I was fortunately able to lift directly from the octopi already in Pathfinder 2nd Edition. Even more specifically, I was able to look at the giant Octopus, which is another huge cephalopod, just like our new Udra. Alright, with that basic stuff out of the way, we can start getting to some more exciting aspects of it. For example, the new Udra's Ignite Oil Silt. Once again, this has some similarities to our Ajarakan and its Enrage effect, but this one can be used a bit more regularly. I designed this to deal unlimited use area damage to adjacent creatures when activated, but it then puts the new Udra into a more powerful state. It sets its strikes on fire, giving them some extra burn that puts them at about high damage, and also lets its other abilities inflict Fire Blight when they critically fail their saves against such effects. And on the topic of those effects, we have the Belch Fire. Instead of ink, the new Udra can launch flames from its siphons, which I have dealing limited use area damage with a high DC reflex save. However, I did get to spice up this simple area effect just a bit by incorporating the new Udra's pin into its DNA. The new Udra's pin has its snare victim in its tentacles and then blasts them directly, which I decided to represent with a -2 circumstance penalty on the save against this effect. This then goes on a short cooldown, though maybe I should have increased this or lowered its damage. Something about it just feels a little bit too much. Though speaking of too much, maybe we should look at Inflamed Thrash. This has the new Udra fling about its flaming tentacles while also throwing around globs of burning oil and terrain. Per the name, it does need to be under the effects of its Ignite Oil Silt, at which point it deals limited use area damage at an extreme DC, based on the fact that the new Udra then has to give up its inflamed state. It's a bit more basic than its other effects, but it pays for that with slightly more severe effects and a greater area. If you don't immediately want to douse yourself though and put out that flame, you could also consider its Writhing Arms. While this does resemble a few of the moves conducted by the new Udra in Wilds, the design of it is actually based on an ability of the same name possessed by the giant Octopus in Pathfinder 2nd Edition. It's a fun little effect that is just slightly limited by the fact that each of the 4 strikes it gets to make as part of it have to be against different targets, though it still gets to bypass its multiple attack penalty for these strikes. So overall, it's pretty solid. One thing that has been missing a bit is that we don't really have the new Udra's ability to knock people around the battlefield. However, given my love of unique reactions and wanting to resemble that, I designed the Sweeping Swing reaction. This triggers when a creature tries to move within the new Udra's considerable reach, and lets it try to trip that creature with its high athletics. Furthermore, if the new Udra is inflamed and it gets a critical success on that trip, it spreads some fire to its target on top of the bludgeoning damage it already deals from critically succeeding on a trip. You know, maybe the octopus and monkey aren't so different, because once again, there's some similarities in their armor. Both of them have resentment, both of them have fire resistance. Can't we just all get along? Anyway, the Black Flame Hide is yet another suit of armor design that is fire resistant, but doesn't have any extra built-in effects this time around. Instead, much like the new Udra being able to light itself flame, a wearer can do the same here to deal fire damage to those that would touch it in turn. I did want to lean into the resentment effect just the tiniest bit, and added that if the wearer is at half health or lower, they get to increase this damage by another die. Which isn't much, but I think it's a fun little nod to the effect. As the flames die down, we're left with just an Udra. Ostensibly an octopus and accordingly armed with Ocho offshoots, our overland offender obscures its odd bod in oil that it obliterates in obscene ostentation. The new Udra is another cool one from Wilds, and I love that we have an octopus body shape in Monster Hunter now. I cannot wait to see what they do with it, and I do think I'll get to see some more of it working with this game. When it comes to using this one in encounters, its alien nature and ability to squeeze itself in just about anywhere make it a particularly excellent random encounter to surprise your players with. Let me know what you think of the new Udra and what other monsters I should make. If you dig this one, let me know with a like and a subscribe. I want to give a big thanks to the folks on the Patreon, with a special shout out to the Orc Overlords. That being Decaffeinate, Robert Miller, Shy Binster, and Vorthus. You too could head on over there for early access to the vids and extra content. Either way, thanks for watching and have a monstrous Monday.
Why can't we be